First Contact and Crisis. The massive Valerian refugee fleet drifted helplessly in space, their sleek crystalline ships reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. Inside the command vessel Starweaver, Commander Zax-L stared at the holographic displays with mounting concern. Their supposedly infallible quantum drive systems had failed simultaneously across all 50 ships, leaving them stranded just beyond Mars orbit. Engineering, report status. Zax-L commanded, his translucent fingers dancing across the control interface. All quantum drive cores remain offline, Commander. Chief Engineer Venna responded, her voice tight with frustration. The quantum field harmonics are completely destabilized. We've never seen anything like this. Zax-L's secondary hearts quickened as he studied the fleet's power readings. With life support systems running on emergency power, they had perhaps 30 days before the situation became critical. The refugee ships carried over 100,000 Valerians, fleeing their dying star system. They couldn't have picked a worse place to become stranded. What about the primitive species on the third planet? First Officer Lyra asked, joining him at the command station. Our long-range scans show they've achieved basic spaceflight. The humans. Zax-L's face scales shifted in a gesture of dismissal. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They still use chemical rockets. Yet they've managed to establish orbital stations and reach their moon, Lyra countered. Our cultural observation team reports they show remarkable adaptability and creative problem-solving capabilities. Before Zax-L could respond, a new alert flashed across the displays. Power fluctuations were growing worse across the fleet. They were running out of options. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen was working late at NASA's Advanced Propulsion Laboratory when the first message arrived. The quantum telescope array she designed had picked up something impossible, a tightly focused transmission using principles that shouldn't exist. Dr. Chen, you need to see this, her assistant Tom called out, voice shaking with excitement. We're receiving a signal. It's not from Earth. Sarah rushed to the monitoring station, her heart pounding as she read the decoded message. This is Commander Zax-L of the Valerian refugee fleet. We are stranded in your solar system with critical systems failure. We request Earth's assistance. Within hours, the lab was swarming with government officials, military personnel, and scientists from every space agency on Earth. Sarah stood before them all, explaining what they'd learned from the alien transmission. Their quantum drive technology is far beyond anything we've theorized, she explained, gesturing to the technical data they'd received. But something in our solar system has completely disrupted their quantum field harmonics. They're stuck, running on emergency power, with over 100,000 refugees aboard. And they're asking us for help. General Richards scoffed. What could we possibly offer an advanced alien civilization? Sarah smiled, pulling up images of the aliens' technical schematics. Sometimes the most advanced solution isn't the best one. They're so reliant on their quantum technology that when it fails, they don't know how to think outside that box. But that's exactly what humans do best. You have an idea? NASA Director Williams asked. I do, Sarah replied, her eyes bright with excitement. But you're going to think I'm crazy. We'll need the prototype of the Odyssey-class rescue ship, a team of engineers who are good at improvising, and every spare part we can get our hands on. Oh, and someone who's good at fixing old cars. Old cars? Richards looked bewildered. What do cars have to do with advanced alien spacecraft? Everything, Sarah grinned. Because sometimes the best way to fix a high-tech problem is with a low-tech solution. The aliens have been watching us, studying how we solve problems. Now it's time to show them why humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to work with whatever we have. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity as Earth prepared its first official contact with an alien civilization. The experimental rescue ship Odyssey was quickly outfitted for deep space operation. Sarah handpicked her crew, choosing people known for their ability to improvise and think creatively under pressure. As they made final preparations for launch, Sarah studied the latest data from the stranded fleet. The aliens' power systems were degrading faster than expected. They had less time than originally thought. "Are you sure about this?" Tom asked as they loaded the last of their equipment. "We're about to attempt to help a civilization that's centuries ahead of us." The human touch. The Odyssey's first sight of the Valerian fleet left its crew speechless. 50 massive crystalline ships hung against the starfield, their elegant forms making Earth's most advanced spacecraft look like crude toys in comparison. But Sarah Chen's attention was drawn to the subtle power fluctuations visible in their hull matrices, signs that the mighty vessels were slowly dying. "Valerian Command Vessel, this is Earth Rescue Ship Odyssey," Captain Rodriguez transmitted, requesting permission to dock. The response came immediately in perfect English. "Permission granted, Odyssey. Though I must admit, we're surprised by your vessel's construction methods." Sarah smiled at the diplomatic way the aliens had avoided saying primitive. As the Odyssey's docking system engaged with the Starweaver's airlock, she gathered her tools and prepared for first contact. Commander Zaxel was waiting as they crossed through the airlock. His crystalline form towered over them, internal lights pulsing with what Sarah recognized as barely contained stress. Behind him, other Valerians watched the humans with expressions that mixed desperate hope with technological disdain. "Welcome aboard," Zaxel said. "We appreciate Earth's quick response, though I'm unsure how." He trailed off, staring at the mechanical toolbox in Sarah's hands. "Those are physical manipulation implements," First Officer Lyra whispered to him. "The humans still use manual tools." "Dr. Sarah Chen." Sarah stepped forward, extending her hand before remembering the aliens might not shake hands. "I've reviewed your technical data. Can you show us to your quantum drive core?" The Valerian Engineering Center was a marvel of crystalline technology and holographic interfaces. Chief Engineer Venna guided them through displays, showing the quantum field disruption that had stranded the fleet. "Our quantum cores operate by manipulating subspace fields through crystalline resonance," Venna explained. "But something in this region of space has altered the quantum harmonics. Our systems can't compensate." Sarah nodded, already pulling tools from her box. "Can you show me the physical quantum core itself?" The aliens exchanged worried looks. "The core chamber is highly sensitive," Venna protested. Physical contact cooled. The clang of Sarah's wrench, tapping against a crystal support structure, echoed through the chamber. Every Valerian present flinched. "What are you doing?" Venna demanded, her crystalline form flickering with alarm. "Learning," Sarah replied calmly, tapping another structure and listening carefully. "Your quantum technology is incredible, but right now it's not working. Sometimes you need to step back to basics." She pressed her ear against a crystal conduit. "There's a resonance pattern here, but it's fighting against something." She pulled out her tablet, but instead of using its sensors, she began sketching with her finger. The Valerians watched in bewilderment as she drew rough diagrams, occasionally stopping to tap more crystal structures with her wrench. "Dr. Chen," Zaxel said carefully, "our most advanced AI systems have been unable to solve this problem. What do you hope to accomplish with such primitive methods?" "That's exactly the point," Sarah replied, not looking up from her sketch. "Your AI thinks like you do, always seeking the most advanced, elegant solution, but sometimes the answer isn't more complexity." She held up her tablet, showing a rough diagram of overlapping wave patterns. "Your quantum drives work by creating perfect harmonic resonance, right? But look at the pattern of the disruption field." The alien studied her crude drawing. "It's chaotic," Venna observed. "Random fluctuations that prevent proper quantum alignment." "Not random," Sarah corrected. "Natural. Like waves in an ocean. You're trying to impose perfect order on a naturally chaotic system. That's why your drives failed." She grinned. "But what if instead of fighting the chaos, we surf it?" "Surf." Zaxel's translation system struggled with the word. It's how humans ride ocean waves for recreation, Captain Rodriguez explained. Instead of fighting the water's force, they work with it. Sarah was already pulling more tools from her box. Your crystal technology is amazing at channeling and focusing energy, but right now you need something that can flex and adapt to changing conditions, something less perfect but more resilient. She turned to her human crew. Tom, remember that old Chevy you restored? The one with the shot suspension that you got working with parts from 3 different makers. Tom grinned. You want to jury-rig an alien quantum drive? Not exactly, Sarah said, but we're going to teach it to dance instead of march. She faced the increasingly alarmed aliens. I'll need access to your crystal fabrication systems, some raw materials, and she held up her wrench, a willingness to try something very unorthodox. This is highly irregular, Venna protested. The quantum core is incredibly delicate. And currently useless, Zaxel interrupted. His internal lights had shifted to a pattern Sarah hadn't seen before. How long will these modifications take? Sarah looked at the power readings on the wall. Less time than you have left on life support. But first, I need your engineers to unlearn some things about perfect solutions. She pulled a piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to the nearest Valerian. Let's start with something we call back-of-the-napkin calculations. The next few hours would teach the advanced alien civilization more about human innovation than all their years of studying Earth. And for Sarah, it would prove that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology. It was the ability to see past it to simpler truths. Breaking protocol. The crystalline chamber hummed with an unsettling frequency as Sarah Chen's modifications to the quantum core took shape. She stood surrounded by scattered tools and hand-drawn diagrams that seemed impossibly crude next to the Valerians' holographic displays. But after 3 days of work, they were ready for the first test. This goes against every principle of quantum engineering, Venna said, her crystalline form pulsing with anxiety as she watched Sarah attach the last makeshift resonator. You're introducing deliberate imperfections into the crystal matrix. Imperfection is the point, Sarah replied, tightening a connection. Your quantum drive is too perfect. It can't handle the natural chaos in this region of space. These modifications will let it flex and adapt, like a tree bending in the wind instead of trying to stand perfectly straight. The chamber doors opened as Commander Zaxel entered with First Officer Lyra. The refugee ships are reporting critical power failures in sectors 3 through 7, Lyra announced. We're down to 6 days of life support. Then it's time to test our solution, Sarah said, standing up and wiping grease from her hands. She turned to Tom, who was monitoring the jury-rigged control system they'd built. Ready? As ready as we'll ever be, Tom replied. Though I still can't believe we're basically hot-rodding an alien quantum drive. Sarah activated the modified core, and for a moment, everything seemed to work. The crystal matrix hummed with new energy, the quantum field readings showing promising fluctuations. Then everything went wrong. Warning alarms blared as power surges raced through the ship. The crystal walls around them resonated at frequencies that made the humans' teeth ache. Shut it down, Venna shouted. The harmonics are collapsing. Sarah raced to the control panel, her fingers flying over the interface. No, wait. Look at the pattern. It's not collapsing. It's trying to find its rhythm. The crystal matrix is approaching critical stress levels, Lyra warned. If it shatters, trust me, Sarah insisted, making minor adjustments. The system needs to learn how to dance. Commander Zaxel moved to override the controls, but Captain Rodriguez stepped in his way. Give her a chance, he urged. This is what humans do best, finding order in chaos. The ship shuddered as the quantum fields twisted in ways the Valerian sensors had never recorded. But Sarah kept working, her eyes fixed on the crude gauge she'd attached to the crystal matrix. Almost there, she muttered. Come on, feel the rhythm. Suddenly, the violent oscillations smoothed out. The crystal matrix hummed with a new harmony, Not the perfect tone the Valerians were used to, but something more organic, more alive. Quantum field stabilizing, Venna announced in disbelief, studying her readings. But the pattern. This shouldn't be possible. Sarah grinned. It's not trying to impose order anymore. It's learning to flow with the natural quantum currents in this region of space. She pointed to the power readings. We're getting 30% efficiency. Not perfect, but 30%. Zax L interrupted. That's barely enough to power the emergency systems, let alone move the fleet. It's a start, Sarah insisted. Now that we've proven the concept works, we can refine it. But we'll need to modify every ship in the fleet. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. That's impossible, Lyra said finally. We don't have enough time or resources. Then we'll have to work smarter, not harder, Sarah replied. She turned to Venna. Your engineers are brilliant, but they're too focused on perfection. We need to teach them to think like human mechanics, how to improvise, how to work with what they have. You want us to deliberately introduce flaws into every quantum drive in the fleet. Venna's tone made it clear how absurd she found the idea. I want you to stop thinking of them as flaws, Sarah corrected. Nature doesn't work in perfect straight lines. It works in curves and cycles. Your technology is trying to impose artificial order on natural chaos. We need to teach it to adapt instead. Commander Zax L's internal lights shifted through complex patterns as he considered. The lives of his entire fleet hung in the balance. Finally, he spoke. Explain what you need. Over the next few hours, Sarah laid out her plan. It was audacious, unprecedented, and by Valerian standards, completely insane. They would need to modify every quantum drive in the fleet, teaching each one to surf the quantum currents rather than try to force its way through them. But more importantly, they would need to teach the Valerian engineers a whole new way of thinking. Your people have spent generations perfecting your technology, Sarah explained to the assembled alien engineers. Now you need to learn how to imperfect it. We humans have a saying, perfect is the enemy of good enough. She held up her wrench. This isn't just a tool. It's a symbol of human engineering. We learned to solve problems with whatever we had available. Sometimes that meant elegant solutions, but more often it meant duct tape and wire, and praying it would hold together long enough to get the job done. The Valerians watched in mixed horror and fascination as Sarah began teaching them what she called garage engineering. How to listen to machines, to feel when something wasn't right, to trust instinct as much as instruments. It went against everything they had ever learned about technology. But as the hours counted down and power continued to fail across the fleet, they had no choice but to embrace this strange new way of thinking. The fate of their entire civilization now rested not on their advanced technology, but on their ability to unlearn generations of perfect engineering and embrace the chaotic genius of human improvisation. Little did they know, the greatest test of this new philosophy was yet to come. Learning to trust. Time was running out, with only 3 days of life support remaining. The massive Valerian fleet hung in space as teams of humans and aliens raced to modify every quantum drive. The Starweaver's engineering chamber had become a strange hybrid of advanced alien technology and improvised human solutions, with Sarah Chen's hand-drawn diagrams posted alongside holographic displays. Status report, Commander Zax L demanded, entering the chamber where Sarah and Venna were training another group of alien engineers. 32 ships modified. Sarah replied without looking up from the crystal matrix she was adjusting. 18 to go. But we're getting faster as more of your engineers learn the technique. Indeed, the change in the Valerian engineers was almost as remarkable as the modifications themselves. Where they had once moved with precise, measured actions, they now worked with a more fluid grace, learning to trust their instincts as much as their instruments. Show me how you feel the resonance, a young Valerian engineer named Kex asked Tom, holding a wrench awkwardly in his crystalline hands. Tom smiled, remembering how strange it had felt teaching alien beings to use hand tools. Close your eyes, Tom instructed. Don't think about the quantum field measurements. Just listen to the crystal song. He tapped the matrix gently, producing a clear tone. Hear how it wants to vibrate. That's its natural frequency. We're not forcing it anymore. We're helping it find its voice. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out as humanity's mechanical intuition merged with Valerian precision. But not everyone was convinced. A group of senior engineers had filed formal protests, arguing that the modifications were too radical, too unstable. The quantum harmonics are completely unpredictable, one complained during an emergency council meeting. We're introducing chaos into every drive in the fleet. Exactly, Sarah interrupted, having been called to defend her approach. The quantum disturbance in this region is natural chaos. Fighting it is like trying to swim upstream. Instead, we're teaching your ships to ride the current. She pulled up a holographic display, modifying it with quick gestures. Look at the pattern. Your traditional quantum fields tried to impose perfect order, like trying to build a rigid bridge across a stormy sea. Our modifications are more like a suspension bridge. They flex and adapt. The council chamber hummed with concerned murmurs until First Officer Lyra spoke up. I've been monitoring the modified ships. Their power efficiency is increasing as the crystal matrices learn to adapt. It's as if they're learning to dance with the chaos instead of fight it. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Emergency in Refugee Vessel 7. A voice announced. Complete power failure imminent. The modifications aren't complete on that ship, Venna reported quickly. Their life support is failing. Divert power from the modified ships, Zaxel ordered. There's no time, Sarah countered. The power transfer won't stabilize fast enough. She turned to Tom. Remember that trick we used on the lunar rescue mission, when we had to jumpstart the mining colony's reactor? Tom's eyes widened. That's crazy. These are quantum drives, not car batteries. Same principle, Sarah insisted. She faced Zaxel. Commander, I need you to trust us. One more time. Something had changed in the Valerian commander over the past days. Where once he had seen primitive beings, he now saw problem solvers who thought in ways his people had forgotten. What do you need? The next hour was controlled chaos as Sarah implemented her desperate plan. They would use the Starweaver's modified quantum drive to directly stimulate the failing ship's crystal matrix, essentially jump-starting its quantum field like a massive battery. This goes against every safety protocol we have, Venna protested, even as she helped make the necessary connections. Safety protocols assume perfect conditions, Sarah replied, hands flying over the controls. Sometimes you have to work with what you've got. She looked at the power readings. Everyone ready. 3, 2, 1. Energy surged between the ships. Warning alarms screamed as power levels spiked far beyond design tolerances. The crystal matrices of both vessels resonated with frequencies that made every human and Valerian wince. The quantum fields are collapsing, someone shouted. No, Sarah corrected, watching her crude gauges. They're synchronizing. Look. The chaotic energy patterns suddenly shifted, finding a natural harmony that no computer could have calculated. The failing ship's system stabilized, its crystal matrix humming with new life. Impossible, one of the protesting engineers whispered. The quantum harmonics, they're conducting each other, like orchestra instruments finding the same key, Sarah finished. Sometimes the best solution isn't about perfect control. It's about letting things find their natural balance. More importantly, the energy transfer had actually improved the quantum field stability of both ships. Sarah's jury-rigged jumpstart had accidentally discovered a way to make the modifications work even better. Every ship we modify can help stabilize the others, she realized excitedly. It's not just about individual ships surviving. The whole fleet can work together, sharing the load, adapting as one. The next 2 days saw a transformation in how the Valerians approached the modifications. They stopped treating each ship as an isolated system and began thinking of the fleet as a single living network. Human intuition and alien technology merged into something entirely new as they raced to save the remaining vessels. But their greatest challenge still lay ahead. Even with all ships modified, they would need to move the entire fleet out of the quantum disturbance zone. And no one, human or Valerian, had ever attempted to coordinate 50 ships surfing quantum chaos in perfect harmony. A new understanding. The moment of truth had arrived. 50 massive Valerian ships hovered in formation, their modified quantum drives humming with an organic rhythm that would have been considered heretical just days ago. In the Starweaver's engineering chamber, Sarah Chen made final adjustments to the fleet-wide synchronization system, a bizarre combination of advanced alien technology and what Tom had jokingly called space mechanic intuition. All ships report ready, First Officer Lyra announced. The tension in her crystalline form was visible in its shifting patterns of internal light. Commander Zaxel surveyed the holographic display showing the fleet's formation. Review the plan one final time. Sarah nodded, gesturing to her hand-drawn diagrams, now integrated into the ship's holographic systems. The quantum disturbance creates waves in space-time, like an ocean. We've modified the ships to ride these waves instead of fighting them. But to get the whole fleet out, we need perfect coordination. She smiled, or rather, imperfect coordination. The fleet will move in a cascading pattern, Tom continued, like surfers catching the same wave one after another. Each ship's quantum field will help stabilize the ones behind it. And if the pattern breaks? One of the Valerian engineers asked. Then we improvise, Sarah replied simply. She turned to Venna. Your engineers are ready. They've learned to feel the quantum harmonics, to trust their instincts. Venna's form, pulsed with what Sarah had learned, was amusement. Never in my centuries of engineering did I imagine I would be teaching our crews to ignore the computers and feel the rhythm instead. Sometimes the best instruments are the ones you're born with, Sarah said, patting her wrench. Even if you're born with crystalline fingers instead of human ones. Commander Zaxel moved to the command position. All ships, prepare for quantum translation. May the eternal stars guide us. May human ingenuity help too, Tom muttered, earning a crystal chime of laughter from nearby Valerians. The first phase began smoothly. The lead ships caught the quantum currents exactly as planned, their modified drives singing in harmony with the chaos. But as more vessels joined the movement, the complexity increased exponentially. Quantum resonance fluctuating in sections 3 and 7. Lyra called out. Sarah's fingers danced across her jury-rigged control panel. It's okay. The pattern is natural. Let it flow. She turned to the Valerian engineers. Remember what we practiced. Don't fight the oscillations. Work with them. Throughout the fleet, alien engineers who had once relied solely on perfect calculations were now feeling their way through the chaos, adjusting their ship's quantum fields by instinct as much as instrumentation. It was like conducting an orchestra where every instrument was playing a different piece, yet somehow finding harmony in the discord. Then everything went sideways. Quantum surge. Venna shouted as a massive disturbance rolled through space-time. The wave pattern is shifting. Warning alarms blared across the fleet as the carefully coordinated movement began to break down. Computer systems frantically tried to compensate, only making things worse as they attempted to impose order on chaos. Shut down the automatic compensation, Sarah ordered. Everyone, manual control. Feel the wave. It's not breaking down. It's building up. Building up to what? Zaxel demanded. A bigger wave, Sarah grinned. One that can carry the whole fleet if we ride it right. She grabbed the ship-wide comm. All engineers, when I give the signal, push your quantum fields to maximum resonance. Don't worry about coordination. Trust your instincts. That's completely against protocol, a Valerian officer protested. The chaos will tear the fleet apart. No, Venna interrupted, her crystalline form vibrating with sudden understanding. Not if we surrender to it together. She moved to her station. All engineering crews, stand ready. The quantum disturbance built to impossible levels. Reality itself seemed to shiver around the fleet. Sarah watched the energy patterns, feeling more than seeing the moment approach. Now, across 50 ships, alien engineers who had learned to trust human instinct pushed their drives to maximum power. For a terrifying moment, the quantum chaos threatened to overwhelm them. Then, like a massive wave lifting an entire school of fish, the surge of space-time caught the fleet as one. The ships moved together, riding the quantum current in a display of synchronized chaos that defied both physics and logic. Engineers worked by feel, adjusting their drives with the intuition of seasoned surfers riding a monster wave. What should have been impossible became reality through the merger of human adaptability and alien technology. When it was over, the fleet hung safely beyond the quantum disturbance zone. Every ship had made it. Every refugee was safe. In the aftermath, as power systems returned to normal and tension finally eased, Sarah found Commander Zaxel staring out at the distant stars. "When we first called for help," he said quietly, "we thought we were reaching out to primitives who might provide simple assistance while our advanced technology solved the real problem." He turned to face her. "Instead, you taught us something we have forgotten in our pursuit of perfection. That sometimes the best technology isn't technology at all." Sarah suggested. "That wisdom comes in many forms," Zaxel corrected. "Our civilization advanced so far that we forgot the importance of intuition, of creative thinking, of—" He paused, hitting things with wrenches until they work. Sarah laughed. "Well, that last one is a closely guarded human secret. Don't spread it around too much." The days that followed brought unprecedented cooperation between humans and Valerians. The refugee fleet would continue its journey, but not before establishing formal diplomatic relations with Earth. More importantly, both civilizations had learned valuable lessons from each other. The Valerians began incorporating human-inspired adaptability into their designs, creating technology that could work with natural chaos instead of always trying to impose perfect order. Earth, in turn, gained insights into quantum mechanics that would revolutionize human understanding of the universe. But perhaps the most important change was philosophical. The Valerians learned that progress wasn't always about achieving perfection. Sometimes it was about embracing imperfection and making it work for you. And humans were reminded that their greatest strength wasn't in their tools or technology, but in their ability to think creatively, to adapt, and to find solutions in the most unlikely places. As the Odyssey prepared for its return journey to Earth, Sarah took one last look at the fleet that had become a symbol of what different species could achieve together. The ship's quantum drives now hummed with a unique harmony, not the perfect tone of pure Valerian technology, but a new symphony that combined alien precision with human improvisation. It was, she thought, the most beautiful sound in the universe.